For nearly 2 decades, the world has watched. Not just watched, but observed, documented, and speculated. We've seen courtships blossom under strict rules, side hugs turn into marital embraces, and a family of 14 children expand into a dynasty of grandchildren. The Duggars presented a universe of uniformity, a fortress of faith and family values where every story, every milestone, seemed to follow a preordained script. But what happens when the narrative isn't just about adding another branch to the family tree? What happens when a moment of profound personal transition, a mother leaving the hospital with her newborn child, becomes intertwined with a grand, material gesture from the family patriarch? On the surface, it's a simple headline: Jana Duggar leaves hospital with baby, Jim Bob's grand gift. But beneath the surface, this moment is a prism. Hold it up to the light, and it refracts generations of expectation, the quiet weight of legacy, and the unspoken questions that hover around every choice in a family that lives life in the public eye. This isn't just news. This is a chapter in an ongoing story about identity, autonomy, and what it means to build a life within the framework you were given, or perhaps in spite of it. Let's rewind just a little. To understand the gravity of a simple car ride home from the hospital, we have to understand Jana. In the constellation of Duggar children, she has always occupied a unique and curiously compelling space. While her sisters married young, one after another, embarking on the clear path of motherhood and homemaking that was the family's celebrated blueprint, Jana remained. She was the eldest daughter at home, the quiet constant, the helper. The world labeled her the sister mom, a title that acknowledged her immense, quiet labor in raising her younger siblings. For years, the public's most persistent question about her was not what she was doing, but when she would step onto the expected path. When would her courtship be announced? When would she start her own family? The speculation became its own subplot, a gentle, often unfair, pressure applied from the outside looking in. Then the story shifted, but not in the way anyone quite predicted. Jana, now in her 30s, began to cultivate a life that, while still deeply rooted in her family and faith, bore the marks of personal passion and independence. She became a noted gardener, her hands in the soil, creating beauty and sustenance. She took on renovation projects, wielding power tools with a quiet competence that spoke of a practical, creative mind. She traveled, sometimes with siblings, but as her own person. She wasn't rejecting the family model. She was, it seemed, patiently and deliberately building her own version of it on her own timeline. She became a figure of fascination precisely because she defied the easy narrative. She was living proof that within even the most structured of systems, an individual spirit can carve out its own space. So when Jana finally did welcome a child, the context was everything. This wasn't a teenage bride following swiftly in her mother's footsteps. This was a woman, mature and capable, stepping into motherhood after a long season of building other things: a home, a skill set, a sense of self. The birth of her child was not just a new life beginning, it was the culmination of a long, personal journey that the public had only witnessed in fragments. Leaving the hospital, then, isn't just a logistical step. It is a threshold. It is the moment the private, intense, medicalized experience of birth meets the sprawling, complex reality of family and home. It's the first step into a new identity that the world has been waiting to assign her for years, but which she is now claiming entirely on her own terms. And then, there is the gift. Jim Bob Duggar, the patriarch, the architect of the Duggar Empire, presents a grand gift. The specifics may vary: a vehicle, a piece of property, a substantial financial offering, but the symbolism is monumental. In a family culture where the father is the provider, the leader, the spiritual head, a grand gift is more than generosity. It is a blessing. It is a tangible transfer of resources that enables a new family unit to begin. It is a symbol of paternal approval and support, a laying of a cornerstone. We've seen this before, of course. Gifts of houses, help with down payments, vehicles for growing families. These are the threads of the Duggar safety net, the practical outworking of their communal worldview. But when this ritual is applied to Jana, the dynamics shimmer with new meaning. This isn't a father helping a young, financially struggling son-in-law. This is a father acknowledging the established woman his daughter has become. The gift could be read as a long-awaited paternal endorsement of her chosen, patient path. It says, you waited, you built, and now you step into this season fully equipped and fully supported. It bridges any perceived gap between her season of singular independence and her new season of motherhood, folding both into the continuous fabric of family. It is a powerful, nonverbal communication that she is not alone. The resources and the legacy of the Duggar family are behind her as she navigates this new chapter. Yet, we must sit with this complexity. Because the very act that symbolizes support and blessing also underscores a profound, lifelong dependency. In a world where most adults strive for financial and residential independence from their parents, the Duggar model is intentionally different. The family is the bank, the safety net, the landlord, the community. This interdependence is their strength, their fortress against a world they view as corrosive. But it also creates a powerful relational calculus. A grand gift is an act of love, but it is also an act of architecture. It builds the new family's home, sometimes literally, within the patriarch's sphere of influence. It ensures that the next generation is rooted in the same soil. For Jana, who has cultivated such visible self-sufficiency, accepting this gift is a fascinating moment of synthesis. It is the weaving together of her hard-won personal autonomy with the enveloping embrace of her family's system. Does it feel like a reward for patience? A seamless integration of her journey into the family fold? Or does it carry, even faintly, the weight of an unspoken contract? The gift, in its grandeur, reminds everyone, the public, the family, perhaps even Jana herself, that no Duggar story is ever entirely an individual one. Every joy, every milestone, is also a community event, a chapter in the larger saga of Jim Bob and Michelle's legacy. This brings us to the emotional core, the reality TV analysis of a moment we didn't actually see on television. Imagine the scene outside the hospital. The quiet exhaustion and fierce joy of a new mother. The supportive presence of perhaps a sister, a mother, a spouse. And then, the grand gift. The reaction is everything. Does Jana's face show simple, relieved gratitude? The relief of a practical need being met so she can focus on her baby? Or is there a more complex blend of emotions, pride in having this offering made to her as a capable adult, perhaps a hint of wry acknowledgement at the theatricality of it all, the understanding that this private moment is also a public statement? This is where the soft documentary-style gossip isn't about salacious details, but about human nuance. We've watched Jana's demeanor for years. Her calm, her poise, her thoughtful silence. She is not one for extravagant displays. So how does she navigate the extravagance of a patriarch's blessing? Her reaction, likely quiet and gracious, would be the ultimate tell. It would show us how she is choosing to balance the two forces that have defined her public life, her quiet individuality and her inescapable, loving belonging to a vast and watchful tribe. And what of the other siblings watching? The brothers and sisters who received their own gifts at their own milestones? Do they see this as a deserved blessing for a sister who gave so much? Or does it stir complicated feelings about favor, timing, and the economics of family? The gift, while given to one, sends ripples through the entire pond. It reaffirms the rules of the ecosystem. It shows that the system still works, that the patriarch is still the provider, that the path, even if walked later, still leads to the same destination of support and inclusion. Now, let's talk about what this means. Beyond the family, beyond the headlines, why does this small moment hold such a mirror to our own world? Because Jana Duggar's story, in this chapter, has transcended the peculiarities of her family's beliefs and become a strangely universal parable. It is a story about timing. In a culture obsessed with life milestones, graduate by 22, marry by 28, have kids by 30, Jana is a testament to the quiet rebellion of a different clock. Her journey validates every person who has ever felt out of step with society's schedule, who has needed those extra years to grow, to heal, to become. It is a story about the reconciliation of self and tribe. Every adult grapples with this. How much of myself do I owe to my family, my community, my past? And how much do I owe to my own dreams and callings? Jana appears to be conducting a masterclass in holding both. She didn't run away to forge a completely separate identity, nor did she shrink herself to fit an earlier mold. She expanded the mold. She showed that within the boundaries she honors, there was room for a landscaper, a designer, a traveler, and then a mother. Her life argues that authenticity and loyalty are not necessarily enemies. They can be painstakingly woven together. Finally, this moment is a commentary on the nature of support itself. Jim Bob's gift represents a top-down, patriarchal model of support. It is generous, decisive, and structural. But Jana's last decade represents another kind of support, the internal, self-built kind. The support of her own skills, her own resilience, her own faith. The hospital exit, therefore, is where these two streams of support converge. The question it leaves us with is profound. Which form of support is more empowering? The gift that sets you up, or the competence that you built yourself? The answer, as Jana's life suggests, is probably both. The safety net allows for risk-taking, but the internal strength determines what you build within that net. As the car, perhaps the very car that was the gift, pulls away from the hospital, it drives into a future that is both meticulously prepared for and utterly unknown. The baby represents pure potential, a story yet unwritten. Jana carries that child into a life that is, for the first time, fully aligned with the traditional Duggar narrative, and yet, it is a narrative she has authored herself. She is not a young bride following a script. She is a woman who wrote her own prologue and is now beginning a central chapter. The public will watch, as it always does. There will be more milestones, more photos, more moments to parse. But this moment, the leaving of the hospital, will stand as a signature event. It was the day the patient daughter was fully welcomed into the maternal fold, not as a follower, but as a culmination. It was the day the patriarch's blessing met the daughter's prepared grace. It was the day a private joy performed its quiet, inevitable role in the public story. In the end, the clickbait headline fades, leaving only the human truth. A woman, a baby, a gift, a family. A story about coming home, in every sense of the word. It reminds us that even in the most observed and analyzed lives, the most powerful dramas are intimate and universal. The struggle to belong without disappearing, the journey to become yourself while honoring where you came from, and the courageous, hopeful act of bringing new life into a world of beautiful, complicated contradictions. Jana Duggar's drive home from the hospital is just a few miles on a road. But the road she traveled to get to that hospital door? That was the real story. And the road ahead, for her and her child, is where the next one begins. We ended with a car pulling away, a quiet moment of synthesis between an individual's journey and a family's design. But when the tires stop rolling and the front door closes, that's when the real story begins. Not the story of a headline, but the story of a home. Because a grand gift from Jim Bob Duggar is never just an object. It's a foundational block in an ever-expanding compound, both physical and ideological. To understand the full weight of the moment Jana stepped across her new threshold, we must step back and survey the landscape she is building upon, a landscape meticulously architected by her father. This isn't a family that just lives near each other. They have built, quite literally, a kingdom of kin. The famous Duggar compound in Tonatown, Arkansas, is a tangible manifestation of a worldview. Over the years, properties have been acquired, lots subdivided, houses built and renovated, all orbiting the central planet of Jim Bob and Michelle's home. It's a master-planned community with one shareholder, the family. Sons and sons-in-law have worked construction crews for the family business. Daughters have moved into homes provided or facilitated by their parents. This system creates an undeniable safety net, a fortress against the outside world's financial instability and moral temptations. But it also creates a gravity so strong that leaving its orbit requires immense velocity, a force we have rarely seen. So, when Jim Bob presents a grand gift, be it a house, land, or a vehicle, he isn't just writing a check. He is assigning coordinates. He is placing a new node on the family network. He is ensuring that his grandchildren will grow up within walking distance of their cousins, their aunts and uncles, and, centrally, their grandparents. This is the long game. It's not just about supporting a child, it's about cementing a legacy, ensuring that the values, the faith, and the very name Duggar persist through generations in a concentrated, manageable sphere of influence. The gift is an act of love, yes, but it is also an act of urban planning for a familial city-state. Now, place Jana, our figure of patient individuality, onto this map. For years, she existed within the compound but in a unique role, the steward, the caretaker, the anchor. She wasn't a visitor, she was infrastructure. Her gift for gardening and renovation wasn't just a hobby, it was applied to the family homestead. She nurtured the very soil of the dynasty. So, when she receives her own plot, her own house, it represents a seismic shift. She is transitioning from being a maintainer of the central estate to being a sovereign of a subsidiary one. Her new home becomes an embassy of her own making, yet it flies the Duggar flag. This is where the soft documentary lens zooms in on the details. What does her home look like? If it was a gift, was it chosen for her, or did she have a hand in its design? Does it mirror the open floor plan, modest but practical aesthetic of the main house, or does it bear the marks of her personal taste, perhaps a more deliberate garden, a workshop for her tools, spaces that reflect the calm, creative order she has cultivated in her own life? The decor of a Duggar home is never just decor. It's a statement of alignment. A wall of family photos speaks to unity. The absence of certain modern technologies speaks to principles. How Jana adorns her space will be the most subtle, and therefore most telling, form of autobiography she has ever offered the watching world. And then, there is the matter of the gift's counterpart, autonomy. In the economics of the secular world, a large parental gift often comes with invisible strings, opinions that must be heard, holidays that must be attended, an expectation of gratitude that can curtail disagreement. In the Duggar economy, the strings are not invisible, they are the very cables that hold the bridge up. The expectations are clear: adherence to the faith, participation in family life, a commitment to the values you were raised with. The gift facilitates a life already dedicated to those principles. For Jana, who has never publicly strayed from those principles, this is not a conflict. The question becomes one of nuance. Does this financial and practical foundation grant her more freedom within the belief system because she isn't burdened by a mortgage and can focus on her child and her passions? Or does it quietly limit the scope of any future divergence because the cost of stepping away is now astronomically high, involving not just emotional separation but the surrender of a physical haven? Let's analyze the emotional reality TV subtext of her first days at home. The new mother bubble is a universal experience: exhaustion, wonder, a cocoon of feeding and soothing. But for Jana, that bubble exists within a much larger, bustling ecosystem. The visitors won't just be friends, they will be a rotating cast of siblings, in-laws, nieces, and nephews. Help will be constant and will come with a deep, familial familiarity. There will be no need for a formal baby nurse. The sister moms she helped train are now mothers themselves, ready to return the favor. This is the realized dream of the Duggar model. A mother is never alone, never unsupported in the practical, grueling work of infancy. But for a woman known for her competence and quiet control, this inundation of help could be a double-edged blessing. Does it feel like a loving embrace or a gentle colonization of her most private moment? When you've waited so long for this season, is there a desire to figure it out for yourself, to make your own mistakes in private? The cameras are gone, but the audience of family remains, invested and experienced. Navigating this will require a different kind of grace, the grace to accept help while still establishing herself as the unquestioned mother, the captain of this new, small ship docked in the family harbor. This brings us to the figure who is both present and absent in this new chapter, Jim Bob. His grand gift is his most direct intervention. After that, his role theoretically recedes. He is the grandfather now, not the daily patriarch. But his influence is ambient, like the Arkansas humidity. It's in the land deed, the shared values, the very fact that Sunday dinners are a short walk away. For Jana, whose relationship with him has been one of a loyal, adult daughter in a perpetual supporting role, dynamics must subtly shift. She is now a matriarch in training of her own line. Their interactions will now include discussions about her child, her home, her decisions. It's a move from a vertical dynamic to a more horizontal one, complicated by the foundational gift that forever acknowledges the vertical origin of her security. And what of the court of public opinion, that relentless, invisible chorus? The commentary will be relentless. Some will see the gift as a beautiful provision, a reward for her years of service. Others will frame it as a golden tether, ensuring her continued alignment. Every photo she shares of her child in the garden or playing with cousins will be read as evidence for one narrative or the other. But perhaps the most fascinating possibility is that Jana, having always understood this dynamic better than anyone, is utterly transcending it. Perhaps she has reached a point of such internal clarity that the public's binary reading, is she free or is she trapped, simply doesn't apply to her reality. Her freedom may be found precisely within the commitment, her autonomy expressed through faithful stewardship of what she's been given. This is a spiritual and philosophical concept that the secular world often struggles to comprehend, that liberation can be found within a covenant. So, let's talk about what this means for the rest of us, watching from our scattered, nuclear family lives. The Duggar compound is an extreme, but it holds up a distorted mirror to universal yearnings. Don't we all crave that safety net? Don't we whisper about the village it takes to raise a child, while often living miles from our own families? Their model rejects the modern cult of radical individualism and the isolation it often breeds. It offers, instead, a vision of embeddedness. The anxiety of student debt, the crushing weight of a first mortgage, the loneliness of new parenting, these are mitigated by the system Jim Bob built. We may reject the theological and social tenets, but we must honestly confront the practical allure. Jana's story, at this juncture, forces us to ask, what is the true cost of our independence? And what is the true cost of their interdependence? Her gift eliminates certain worldly anxieties, but introduces other, more complex relational ones. Our path guarantees a certain kind of self-determination, but often at the price of loneliness and financial precarity. There is no right answer, only a series of trades. Jana's life is a lived experiment in one set of trades. Her contentment, or lack thereof, will never be fully visible to us. But her continued poise suggests she has made her peace with the balance sheet. The narrative recap of this era in Duggar history, then, will not be about a courtship or a wedding. It will be about the woman who waited, who built, and who was then given the keys to a kingdom within the kingdom. It is a story about inheritance in its fullest sense, not just inheriting property, but inheriting a role, a legacy, and the profound responsibility that comes with it. As Jana rocks her baby in a home provided by her father, she is doing more than soothing an infant. She is becoming the link between the past he constructed and the future she will now, day by day, build within its walls. The grand gift was the prologue. The life she lives inside it will be her definitive work. And for the first time, the world waits not to see when she will start her life, but to see how she will live it, now that the foundation has been laid, quite literally at her feet.